Hey, and welcome to this episode of Career Consultant Telling Stories today. I always try to bring you guys some inspiration in terms of other internationals who have joined or come to Denmark and who have an inspiring story to tell. And that is why today I've invited Poornima to join me and to tell her story and just hopefully be an inspiration to you as well. Welcome, first of all, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Diana. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm very much looking forward to this conversation, and I hope end of this conversation I'm able to inspire some people, more internationals, to find their own path in this amazing country.
I hope so too. And I love that you're using the word path instead of like job or career, because sometimes life takes you in a different direction, right? And it's a different path than you had thought it would be. And even me saying, I would never have thought that I would be here doing what I'm doing today. So it's so interesting to hear people's stories and how they got to where they are. So let's just jump right in and tell us a little bit about what made you move to Denmark in the first place. What made you find this interesting?
So that is very easy actually, because I had come to Denmark as a tourist long time ago, about 10 years ago. So that was my first interaction with the country and the Copenhagen city. So we also have a few friends here, but like that was it. But 22, my husband got this opportunity to work with the global team based out of Copenhagen. And that's how we came to a point where we had to decide whether we want to move or not. And so we decided to move actually ultimately, and it was not that easy decision personally, because our life was set in India. It was, I had a good job and it was going on very well. Son was growing up. He was about to turn 4. But the reason we actually decided that, firstly, I have worked over 15 years before this. So it's not that I just started my career. So I was very okay to take that kind of decision, that it will be a new experience overall in life. And we also thought that if ever we move out of country and live in a new country, the right time is this. And maybe once our son grows a little bit more, we might not be able to take that kind of decision. So this is the time we all three can explore a new world, and we see how it goes. So that's how the journey started.
What kind of things were like? So the thing that you're, hey, now is the time to do it if we're going to do it. That makes a lot of sense. What was kind of the pros and cons for the decision? What was the things you were struggling with? Because I'm also thinking it's quite a big decision to take your family and move so far away from home, from your other family, like extended family, all of these things. So what was it that kind of, what was the pros and cons of doing that, of making that choice?
Yeah, so frankly, the job was never the first con which I ever thought. Though I think on face it always feels that that might be the reason. That was the thing, but and I also did not know that, when you shift to a new country, and especially Denmark, job can be difficult. I did not think. I was too overconfident about that. But when I say that life was set, like we had our own home, we were living in that. We invested in purchasing that home, and we were on that, that stage in life where you bring a stability in life. Like, you have struggled, you have done job for so many years, you saved some money, you have a child also now, and you have your own home and you're settled. And now just life will go like this from here. And then a big change, like going to a new country, your family will not be there. Like, just before moving to Denmark, like 3 months before, it was my father's 70th birthday. And we all could just fly and celebrate it. None of us live in the same city in India right now. We are many siblings. So, but it was possible. Now, today, like anything happens, I knew that the moment I'm out of country, my trips to India will be very limited. They will have to be planned. It's not that I can meet the family or friends anytime. And then you're building a life from scratch. You won't have your old friends. You won't have your family around you. You will have to build new friends. And a little bit idea I had about Denmark because I knew 2, 3 people who live here, and I knew that this society will not be that easy to make friends with. So in my life, I've lived in many different cities in India, and they were like totally different. Like they had different language, different culture, everything different. But it was still easier because it was the same country. But when you change to a new country and you have no connection to, like, the thing which we call everyone here network, like how do you start? Even that becomes a question. How do you meet people? So those were the kind of things which were there in head, that how we'll do it. But we just thought that let's see, it's a kind of adventure. Even if it's in your 40s, let's see, this is a different kind of adventure we'll have in life. So yeah, so mostly if I sum it up, it's like already being stable in your life. When you have stability and you're kind of settled, you suddenly bring a big change in life wherein everything you have to start from the day one, like from scratch. So yes, that was the thing in head.
I think there's some good like reflections in that. And I'm curious that you're also like you said, so I had no idea that it would gonna be that hard to kind of go on with your career or like find a job when you got to Denmark. So let's kind of go into that a little bit, but also what kind of other things what did you do when you came here? Because like you said, there's no family, there's no network. So when you moved to Denmark, what was it like actually getting here and trying to get settled in Denmark?
Actually, for us, coming is easy. So we did not have that struggle of the basic things like, finding a home, which is, we also had a story, but not like the people have when I came to know later. And that's mostly because it's like we came with, my husband's job, and it was taken care of. Everything was taken care of. But like the kind of different experiences I had, and the first for me was the language, because second day after coming to Copenhagen, I went to the nearby store, and it was Netto where we were staying. And I entered. I was confused to hell. Like I didn't understand anything. And I had to take out my Google. And I was like, okay, what do they call chicken in Danish? And it was like a completely different word. Entering a grocery store was kind of an experience, and for I think very long time. And this is very funny when you think about it now. But I used to decide that I just go and buy these 4 items, and these are the names in Danish, and I'll buy only that. I'll think of taste and everything else later. And then you see Danish everywhere. Like you move anywhere. I mean, we all know 80% of people speak English, and you generally don't get in a problem while commuting and moving here. But read Danish everywhere. You hear Danish everywhere. For me, the first thing was that, I know that I won't be able to like master the language immediately, but I need to know a bit of it just to be like comfortable. So that was the first thing. Otherwise, like setting up in new home, the way of living is very different. Like basic homes in India and homes in Denmark, they don't work the same way. So for us, everything was like an experience. Like even using like a dryer, it's again a funny thing. But in India, people don't use dryer. There's too much sun entire 12 months. So, and we were like, okay, and everything is written in Danish over there also. So I don't think how much I have done, like I've seen different videos and the kind of translations I have done to understand how these equipments exactly work, and not that, I damage something in the very first go. And then things like you do everything on your own. It's very normal in India, like if you are in middle class or upper middle class, to be surrounded by at least 2 or 3 servants. And here, like you are on your own now, completely, all of a sudden. And that's in the culture. It's not about that people don't work, but the infrastructure and the surrounding is such that you need those helps. But here it was very different. So we had to actually, as a family, learn many things, that how we are living together, what things, who is doing what time. And then I think for first 6 months, at every step, there was a cultural shock and a learning. And especially if you have a child, I think it happens more, because our child also, he was 4 and he went to the kindergarten. So kind of like every week we used to have a new insight, and I used to tell myself that, okay, don't stress and try to understand why it is happening like this. So a simple thing like the very first week and first 2 3 days. So my son actually is quite social, but he became kind of mute because he didn't understand Danish, and everybody didn't speak English. He speaks English, but he was comfortable because the pedagogues were talking in English, and it was really a good experience for him overall. He was taken care of very well. But small things like he was not eating food, and being an Indian mother, it was a big deal for me. And I remember the second day I was told that today was a great day for Rayan because he had half glass of water. And to me, in back of my head, that entire day he has been playing and he just had half glass of water. So how should I react? I did not know. I found my own ways, like to deal with all these small things and the cultural things, even the simple things, like again, like what time the child should sleep, what time you should have food, what time you need to start the day. Because the weather which we have here, it works very differently. And the moment you enter India, and not India, like any Asian country or tropical weather country, it works very differently. I mean, not even India. Like if you go to Spain and Portugal, it works very differently.
Yeah.
It's just that difference.
It's just cold and dark and wet here a lot of the time.
Yes. so, so we actually first 6 months we were just tuning in. We got many cultural shocks, and we tried to deal with them in such a way that we become like comfortable with living. And so, frankly, the 6 months were like being comfortable in living here in your own home in such a way that it feels completely like your own home, and not like you have entered in some strange corner of the world where you don't know even how to sleep or how to walk in. So yeah,
What about the positive? Sorry, my camera. What about some of the positive things? Like, of course, there's a lot of challenges, but I'm thinking there was also some like positive experiences since you're still here.
I think for us, like, so it's a mixed of thing, because in the very first month, so for me, for last 10 years, I have been traveling abroad. And this always has been vacation. And sometimes they were like some office trips also. But uh, when I look at a travel to a different country, I always thought it a very different way. Now, like uh, here for first 15 days, we were in a hotel, so that was fine. But I knew that, we will be living here now. So it's a new country, but you need to learn living. So while those challenges were there because of a different culture, a different country, I think we enjoyed a lot. And that was also because we came in August and we got a very good weather. We realized it when it became like January happened, not even in December, because we were, I think, from August till December, and we were still in holiday mood, I would say. Um, I remember the snowfall happened here in November end, and that was the first time for us like seeing Christmas market, because the vacations which we used to have, we never had during this time. We always had during summertime or during like September, October, between July to October. So it was another experience. And we were like super happy with this new change. Like everybody says that winter is not nice, but we were very happy with winter. I think we were so much. I have so many videos and so many those moments where all three of us, like, I have seen snow, but like living in some place and experiencing snow on your balcony, it was uh, kind of like, I still remember that moment. And we didn't bother about the cold or anything. We just went out and played. And we in first year we went to Finland and we went to Estonia to see more snow. We really wanted to be closer to more and more cold. So it's again, things are very funny when you see how people deal with different things. And we played a lot in snow in December. We brought our own first real Christmas tree. Like India celebrates Christmas. We every year we used to celebrate and we used to have our Christmas tree decorated. So it's a festival, especially from the part my husband comes from, Calcutta. Christmas is a huge festival there. We have I would say, a big British hangover even now of colonial times. So we do like, but it was never a real Christmas tree, right? So when we first bought our own Christmas tree, that was an experience that, okay, this is how the actual Christmas tree looks like, and this is how people buy it. And that guy actually helped us setting up the base of it and everything. We decorated it, three of us, like 2-3 days we were doing only that. So it's like there were moments which were like a lot of fun. So I would say first 6 months was, in spite of all the challenges, it never felt like it's a tough time. It always felt like we are having really fun holiday time. I think, like many people tell me this. In fact, yesterday I was having a conversation and somebody said, your first year is generally difficult for everyone here. So I won't ask about that. But I think from second year, it should be nice for you. So I was like, no, actually, my first year was too good. So it's other way around. I think had the best of time in my first year.
Yeah. I think there's interesting. I hadn't really thought about that, but going from December to January, I get that January becomes hard because yes, it becomes darker from like now we're in late October and it's already started to become dark, right? And next weekend we're switching time and like for winter time and stuff like that. But then like you said, the Christmas markets comes and like the Christmas lighting comes and like so the cities are kind of sparkling and like especially if there's in snow as well, right? And then we go into January and then everything just shuts off. Like
You get shocked.
the lights are gone, like it's just dark and it's wet and it's cold and it's like welcome winter depression. Yeah. So
It is.
I
It is.
I totally get that. So okay, so I also want to chat about your story, your experience of like the job, right? Because we're talking about, and like you're saying, it can be really hard to find Danish friends for one, and it can be really hard to connect with people. But tell me a little bit about because you ended up being self-employed, right? So what is it that what was your journey? Because you were also like you had a career back in India and you were confident that it wasn't going to be an issue. And I hear that a lot. And then you get kind of smack in the face that it might be a little bit harder than than people initially think it is. So tell us about your journey in terms of the job search.
So it happens very slow actually, Diana. And the realization, so first 6 months actually I didn't even look for a job, and that I had mentally decided when we came here I didn't want to work for 6 months. I have never taken a sabbatical. So I thought, if I'm leaving my job, let me just enjoy for a time, and it's like official holiday for some time. And then I was confident that, okay, the moment I decide to, because I used to see the jobs which were matching my profile. So I was confident that if there are jobs, I'll get something. And then I started, I think around February, I started applying. Even like, next 6 months, what I did for first year, it was my job search was not even in picture. I started my job search after 1 year, because after first 6 months there was also a time when I focused more on Danish language. So I joined the language school and I wanted to be comfortable with that part, not only because I wanted to be comfortable and that's the language like you see everywhere around you, but also because my son was going to public school and I got a feeling he will start speaking very soon. And so I decided, okay, let me be at least comfortable. I might not be fluent. So actually focused on language for next 6 months, and that was my 1 year. And then it was a time that now let's look for a job. So I looked for job. I applied in like very selective jobs and there was no selection. So I thought maybe it's fine. So it's and I heard it from many other people also later. For example, I did not have a proper CV also before. For 15 years, I did not make a like CV to look for a job. I was always approached by a recruiter or the company directly, and the CV was just a document there. It was not the basis because of which I was selected. So here like I was at the situation, okay, how to write like my own CV while I had a team and I used to see their CVs, but writing your own in a different country. So I think I had multiple versions of CV in the beginning, and I also attended some career coaching, the free career coaching which is available in Denmark at different places. So I did that and I understood that the CV part and cover letter part. So those were the learnings. And I started looking for jobs. And it happened so that after like few months, the realization came that it's not that easy. And for me, what happened then, I actually stopped the language also. I stopped going to the language school. I was, I think, done with till module 3 till then. That happened one after another. So it was easy. But then after module 3, I thought that I will now dedicatedly look for a job and I must get it in next 3 months. So that was my thing. And I was like, my son will move out around 7:30, and that's the time I will start my job search. In a day, like 2, 3 jobs I used to apply, write cover letters, like do the full research, like just like you do in a job. Like it was a proper job which I was doing. And for 2 months, I continuously did that. I got a few shortlist also, but it was, I can't tell you, when you do it every day and when you do it whole day and you next every day you get those rejection emails which are exactly the same words. There's no change here and there, no matter which company it is. And it starts working in your head in very different way. And in first time in my life, I felt that, I am feeling low in life. I'm feeling that stress, which was somewhere starting affect me physically also. And it didn't feel good in any way, even though like there was some short list, but it was not giving a green light. So I took a break. I took a break after 2 months and I wanted to decide that what to do. Because if I continue like this, I think it will affect me very badly. Um, and no matter how much you talk and how much support you have of your partner and your friends over the calls or your family, by that time I had some friends here, but it does affect you. And that's the moment when I thought of writing. And that's not because it was something new for me. I had 2 blogs before. I had one travel blog before COVID time, but when COVID happened, then I stopped doing that.
Yeah.
um, then I had another blog during COVID time. I used to express my opinion on whatever was happening around me and all. So I had those journeys, but I couldn't sustain those websites with job, and it was not like continuation. Somewhere it all stopped at one point. So I thought this time let me do it. Let me just write, and that was my way to cope up with the rejections and with whatever was happening in job. So I started writing on Medium. I knew about Medium, but I decided that because I didn't want to get into the thing of, I had created my own websites and all that technical thing. I was aware about it. I've been there, done that. But this time I decided a platform. So I just think of the craft of storytelling, the craft of writing, and work on it. So it started just like that. And after a few months, I got really engaged in all that. And what happened, one of my story, after like I think 6 to 7 months, I wrote, and this was eighth month when I that story became the top story. Medium has a way of selecting top stories. Every month, about 1 to 1.5 million articles are published. And out of them, close to 2,000 to 3,000, they select in top story. They call it boost. And my article was boosted. So that was, I think, a big boost to me also, that this could happen. I mean, being standing out in millions was again like a positive feeling, that what I have been doing, and I did not do it from that perspective. I was actually trying to deal with and trying to develop a new skill and speak out something to be busy with something more that, and then it became something I chase and I started building on that. So from then, like it's been, it was April 24. We are in October 25 now. It's been like every month I have 2 to 3 articles which are in top articles, and I could create that. So, and then just 3 months ago, actually. So while that journey on Medium started, and it gets me some money. And what I saw, that I did not know how it was turning, how it was becoming a new thing for me. But I could see a lot in what people were talking to me. And when people in my language school, I again started module 4 and all. And when I used to tell them during those interactions, we used to try in Danish, and I used to tell them, okay, what I do and what I'm trying, etc. And I got the reactions which were like, also, they were like, okay, this is a great new thing, which we didn't know that, from writing people can earn also. And I felt like, okay, I never saw it like that. And those were the cues, actually, small cues for me, that maybe this can become something for me, and I should look at it very differently, and not like just a way of dealing with job search rejection, because I was still applying for jobs. And so that was one. And so I consciously then worked on it. And this year, like around May, sometime in May, I started working on my LinkedIn. That was the first time when I started talking on LinkedIn. And from there, a new thing started, that I connected with a lot of people whom I did not know by face. I could attend a few networking events, which otherwise from my circles I wouldn't come to know. And many Medium writers actually contacted me. So this all without, and I have not marketed myself yet. So when they started and they were asking me, how did you get the boost? What did you do? How your articles became top articles? What we can do? And that made me like, realize that I can now take the next step. So I am currently like consciously working on 2, 3 different things to take it to the next level, while writing continues and articles are there on Medium. But I'm working, like I started my Substack newsletter, The Storytelling School, where I share how the aspiring writers can actually grow on Medium through their writing. So I share storytelling techniques which can help them grow and actually earn from their money. I learned to create digital products. I explored all that. So till now, I've given few free products, but my next big paid product is going to come. So that was another thing I started. And through LinkedIn, actually, a lot of things happened, which and I treat it is just like a networking place where I talk and I use my storytelling, because that's what I love to do. So why not just, build relationship in a very different way? And that was just the beginning, sharing small things from my experiences, and somehow they were noticed. And I remember my first post, which got like some 35,000 impression, and it was the very first month when I started. So, and I got a shock that this can happen. So, and then it happened many times. And the people whom I connected, I met them outside. Till now, I was looking at a coffee meeting as a way to get a job. And I started looking at a coffee meeting very differently now. People approached me for coffee meeting. I approached some for coffee meeting. So all these were like very different experiences. And I think LinkedIn is something which I'm here for last just 4 months. I think it's a big thing in Denmark, which is not that big thing, frankly, in India or any other countries I know from my friends. But here it really does work.
I would say that two things that you want to do even before you move to Denmark. So if you're not in Denmark yet, start learning language, because like you said earlier, like even going into the grocery store, like having to understand that, hey, what is chicken called? These kind of things that can really help you if you learn a little bit about the language in advance, and then starting using LinkedIn. There are more active LinkedIn profiles than there are active people in the workforce in Denmark. So we're one of the highest users per capita for LinkedIn as well. So very much so. Really do use LinkedIn. I want to go a little bit back as well, because I think it's really interesting that you also found a path where it's like, now I'm going to start doing something I really enjoy doing, like writing, and like just do that for myself basically. And I'm still going to like put it out there. And that turned into something that you're now building into your own business, right? And I think the energy, and maybe you can elaborate on your story about this, because I think the energy that comes when we do something we really like and what we feel like we're good at, or something where it's interesting for us to learn, is super important. Back when I graduated, what I did was start a podcast, right? So I was like, I want to talk to people, I want to learn. So I started a podcast, which directly led me into my career path afterwards, which when I started it, the idea was just for me to learn and figure out how do I apply for jobs in an effective way, right? And then here, 10 years later, this is what I'm doing, right? This is the sphere I'm working in. Um, so what is it that's kind of, what's your journey, and maybe the emotional journey actually of that been for you?
For me, this writing helped me a lot to explore things very differently. So, because what happens, like the kind of profile I had before, when it comes to work, I worked in marketing and I worked as a brand manager, then got into marketing head kind of roles and different industries, and last B2B, and I got into the content space with more content management, content marketing management. But we work with a lot of agencies. We work with people who do all these tasks. We don't do all this on our own, but yes, we need to do sometimes on our own. So I used to do writing in a different way. Here I felt that, it was not a product, it was not a service, it was not a company, but I can talk about my views about different things. And then I use the basic principles which I know because of my job, that what works. And I think that helped me to get into the top space because I could understand the platform very easily. I could understand the audience. I could understand how medium company works and how the overall, the audience network works. So I did not try the hacks and tricks which people were doing. Rather, I focused on, basically, you can build your strategy. So that I think comes from my job experience, what I have been doing over the years. But what I truly enjoyed was that I'm not promoting a product, I'm not promoting a service or anything. I'm talking about my opinions. And how do I put that opinion now in an interesting way? Because I have always been a reader. I love reading, and that part I love about Denmark, that the library is too good. I think in our home we always have at least 10 books from library, including for all three of us. So I wanted to tell stories, and it's became a kind of, to the level that I had to control on thinking in stories in many times, and that becomes crazy. It doesn't happen in job. Like there were times when I'm sleeping and a idea comes and I want to write that sentence. And you feel like you are getting, those are the moments like when you feel you are getting so much into it. You are not like just on periphery, that you are trying something. And I explored many different topics and I went in depth for them. So I started talking a simple communication, like it was my that first story was about discrimination and equality. So it sounds very serious, but I told in a very simple way. And that's the art I learned, that it's a story. When you present something in a story format, a very serious matter also, how people actually end up understanding that topic and connect with you in a very different way. The way I connected with lots of writers through books. And then I explored so I used the new topics I came across. I started understanding how to be more observant in your everyday life and get ideas from here and then create stories. So one is the craft. And the other thing is like you start looking at things very differently. So like I wrote about Fest 11 Bola, and that was my way also, that where my own culture and then how I understand this new culture beyond like a surface level. And that was after 2 years experience, and it became one of the top article, one of the most read article. I was also surprised that this is what is happening with me. Then today morning, actually, someone engaged with one of my article, which was titled "Copenhagen Gave Me a Taste of Tokyo," and that was my experience of Sakura Festival in Copenhagen. And I had also read a novel from a Japanese writer who also talked a bit where Denmark and the Nordic countries were in the background. So everything came together very well, and I could see things beyond what usually I will see. So I write a lot about like food, I write about cultures now, very serious topics about sometimes human rights and sometimes equality, gender equality, diversity, venturing into like a little bit into travel also now. um so it's like it's like exploring things very differently. I did a lot of poetry, so that's another thing which I think as a child I used to do, and I left it somewhere in my adult period, when you become serious about life, you work for job, and the art, poetry, this leaves you somewhere. And so I would say all those things which somewhere I think it's very interesting how universe works for you and brings things together. Like I said about poetry, I used to write, but I don't have any of those now, and I did not build on this. But now I enjoy doing it, and I do it very differently now when in a very serious topic, like I wrote about woman very recently, and it was, I think, one of the most serious about the overall what's happening in the world. And I had added a big poem written by me in that, and that became like it was like a packed with a lot of research, that article. And then suddenly a poem comes, and I think I have got so many comments on that, that how did you do this? And even the editors were like very pleasantly surprised. Even I don't know how I did that. If somebody asks me, all these things are happening naturally. So even I did not know that I will someday will write about Festilavan, or I will write about glue. I enjoyed it a lot in Christmas market, but writing about something like, it's easy for me maybe to write about samosa, but not for that. So
So what I'm hearing is also that if we're talking about like someone else who wants to write and like maybe do something similar to what you've done, or even just like be more active on LinkedIn to get more spotlight on themselves, to be more attractive in their job search, it's about two things. It's about writing with, or say with feeling, with, in the sense that you want people to relate. It needs to be something where we're learning more about you and a topic at the same time, and you have to have like your point of view in there as well, because pure facts becomes really boring, right? And then the second part of it is the storytelling, and these two things are of course also like they come together, right? But storytelling in a non-fictional way. So it's not that it's, when we're saying storytelling, it's not that it's telling a story in terms of like H.C. Anderson or whatever. It's like a fairy tale kind of thing. It's just telling the story of a life or an experience and doing it in a way that it's captivating as well.
true.
So if you're to go in and give an advice to someone who want to go that path, who would like to start writing, so if you're like 1 to 2 like short things that they could start out with if they're not used to writing at all, or maybe they've been writing a little bit but don't really feel comfortable doing it? What would be your best advice?
My best advice first is to start writing, because many people think in head and they really think well. But when it comes to paper, even today for me, everything changes when it comes to paper. So it's very important that at least start writing. And if you ask me, when I started writing 2 years ago on Medium, if I when I read those pieces now, I feel like how I could write this. I mean, it's really not a good piece. It feels so childish or so not me what I am today. But then I see a graph that, when you start, you always start like that, and you will never like your earlier pieces. So I would say that be first more observant. What's happening? And start with little things. I started with very little things, what I see, like even if I'm going and enjoying a cup of coffee, at that point, what I'm observing around me, there'll be certain surrounding, there'll be certain feeling in me that I went out for a coffee and why I went out and what I felt afterwards. It's a simple, for example, even if I'm reading a book, it's very important that you start at least practicing that writing part, and then you build, like, you understand that how to make it as before making it a story, how to include facts in that, because everything has a story, like everything has some fact, some history. So my articles would have a lot of, either they will have history or they will have science and the facts which are happening. So I do a lot of research myself to understand that part. So if I say the Festilavan, or I say writing about Sakura festival and onigiri, the dish which I observed during that festival, and in Copenhagen, that all that happened. In that, there was a lot of history and a lot of science, and I tried to understand as a person that how these two things came together, um, which you won't find anywhere else on Google. So this is something, is my observation based on the facts which are there somewhere existing. And then you bring your start writing your personal experiences. And you don't do it all together, you do it in parts. Like I started with personal experiences, and then I started talking about facts. I started bringing science to some of the conversation. And it happened so that everything all came together, and now that looks like a good, beautiful story. I would say, so that's again an art, that how you make it. If you look at my articles, they will look very complicated from a writer's perspective. But for the reader, they are like a story. And the biggest reason for that is it's written from a personal point of view. I don't write from the third person point of view. I always write from my point of view. And there's always some connection with me. It can't be a random thing. Even if, for example, I'm talking about child marriage, what is that which triggered me to talk about this and why I am writing about it? I wrote about Paris Olympics also, but why I wrote about Paris Olympics? I'm not a very athlete or sports person. So you always have to, I think, every person who wants to do something in writing, try to understand that personal story, what your connection with it. Otherwise, we are in chat GPT world today. When I started, chat GPT was not like that, but in the very peak time, when I was in peak time on Medium, chat GPT started. And I know that there was, for 6 months, there was a lot of challenge and people faced a lot of challenge, most of the writers, even on Medium. But I could sustain even that time. And that gives me confidence that if you can bring your own opinion and you can create a story out of it, that can't be done with an AI. And it becomes all the more important in today's time when everyone is using ChatGPT, right? Or some AI tool. Even for the research, we have now tools to do the research, but there are a lot of issues in all the tools at this point in time. And so I do my research myself, even still very normal ways. And I keep experimenting with AI. And that's what also I'll tell every writer, that don't ignore AI. Don't use it for your writing, but keep looking into it and try understanding the tool. So, what I do is my AI use today is editing. So, I do use ChatGPT for editing, not for the idea, not for the writing. That's my own thing. Because it's my story, and that's how it becomes unique. But ChatGPT is damn good for editing, which we did not have previously. Even Grammarly is not that good. And that's also a trick to use it for editing, that how you use it for editing in such a way that all your content is not in the tool. um, so yes, my advice will be that try to look for the personal connection with anything you write. You can write about anything, but there has to be some personal connection, so it doesn't look like it's a copy paste from somewhere. And then it becomes a story. Then people read. Otherwise, people don't find it interesting.
I think that is such a good advice, and I think that goes for the networking part as well. So not not writing your network, but like look for the connection, look for the value in the experience when you're reaching out and connecting with people and like being trying to create these deeper relationships with people, and especially when you're moving to a new country. Poornima, this has been such an interesting conversation. We're also heading to the end of it. So if people want to find you, what do they do? How do they find you? How do they find your articles? How do they find you on LinkedIn? Stuff like that.
So I'm on LinkedIn. I'm now active for last few months, and I will be active. I know that. So it's very easy to find me on LinkedIn. My profile is Poornima Choudhary, and on Medium, to read my articles, I on my LinkedIn profile also I have given in my featured section file where people can read my top articles. Because what happens on Medium, my articles are behind paywall. So if you're not a member, you won't be able to read. And in this file on LinkedIn, I share the links which people can access without being a member. So even the non-members can read. However, my Medium handle is blue. I'm not Poornima over there. And that's another thing, that when I started, I did not want to write as Poornima. I did not want anybody to know that I'm a man or a woman or anybody else, or which country I belong to, what faiths I have, or what beliefs I have. I wanted people to just know by my words and what I'm writing, and that worked for me. Because, and that's what another thing which I think I would say, like, think beyond what happens. Like today's time, we all are a lot visible because of social media. Even on LinkedIn, it's our face. And there are always some preconceived notions about you the moment people look at you, because of your color or because of your gender or because of the country you belong to. So sometimes take those chances even in today's world. Like I took the chance. I Nobody on Medium knows who am I. I still have not like put my face. It's just a blue color. So, and it still worked for me. So I would say something that you can find me as blue. And now on LinkedIn, people know that I write as blue on Medium. And new writers who contact me through LinkedIn or through Substack, my newsletter is the Storytelling School. So there again, I don't write there's no face. It's a newsletter, but it's on LinkedIn again. So you know that it's coming from me. So to find me, I think LinkedIn will be the best medium. And then I write on Medium as Blue and on Substack as the Storytelling School.
And we will link that. So when you look at the show notes, we'll link to your LinkedIn profile, to your Substack, and to your Medium as well. So if people do want to go in and support you and subscribe to Medium, they can, of course, also do that. So thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure and a really interesting story. I also always love the stories that are giving a different way and a different path into a way of supporting yourself and being in the world and being in the Danish society where you can make it make sense for you as well. So thank you again so much for being here today.
Thank you so much, Diana. In fact, it's been amazing conversation. I also did not know what I'll talk about when we started. And I was a bit nervous because I never came on a podcast. I've
There you
been
go.
always on the side. And I think the writers are a bit like that. They generally don't show their face. Somewhere I had those characteristics always as a marketeer also. So it's been pleasure talking to you, and I hope I could communicate well my story, and there are some people who might get inspiration. I'm always happy to help whoever I can.
Amazing.